They have been waiting for this. They could hardly see him until just a few minutes ago. Here he goes.
Unreal, unreal, unreal.
He's made it. He has conquered the mighty Niagara.
Well, that about says it all, right? The end of what was a magnificent walk across Niagara Falls. History in the making, and millions watched it. My parents in Wisconsin, we called them, and they had to call us back. They said, "Did you call us to tell us to watch the walk across the falls in Wisconsin?" And they were watching it. It was amazing. Good morning. Welcome to Winging It Buffalo Style. I'm Victoria Hahn.
I'm Amelia Siegel.
And I'm Ed Drench.
And Ed, you have been there from day one. I mean, you got to know Nik Wallenda. You went down and met the family in Florida. How did you feel when you saw him start and all the way end?
I think, really unreal is the only way to describe it for me, and it was really surreal to see something like that happening. I mean, you think about how massive and how mighty the Niagara is, and it really is. It's truly remarkable. And you're seeing him walking across the falls right now. We took a helicopter ride a couple of days before this actually came to fruition, before he took to the wire. And you can see just how massive the falls are. And when he walked over the brink of the falls,
at that.
exactly.
That's crazy.
I mean, you can see the sheer power of the river. I mean, it's incredible. And he is just this little
speck.
Exactly. He's a little nothing in the middle of the gorge. And this is something you will never see again. It was fascinating. Absolutely unreal.
I have to say, some of those shots that we're showing, I was there and I saw it in person, as was Ed, and you were watching at home.
Yep.
And to see the shots that the TV was able to get from up above, from below, from his feet, added to the experience so much of actually seeing him in person, a little speck walk across. Because you look down and your heart drops, even though I'm not really afraid of heights. You're like, oh my gosh,
I am.
On the Canadian side, too, it took forever for us to actually see him because the mist was so strong and the mist was so thick. So we didn't see him until about 2/3 of the way through, really right when he finished. Whereas on the American side, you were seeing him throughout the entire thing.
Did you have monitors on the Canadian side?
We did it as crews. You know, a lot of other people may have. You know, our photographer, Jeff Helmick, who I was with, he was there constantly, and he was telling me throughout this entire thing that, you know, he's talking to someone, he's praying, he's going through and he's speaking to his father. There was a lot of conversation.
And we were talking about that earlier. I was really getting fed up with the anchors who were talking to him. They said, you know, we're not going to ask him any questions. Suddenly they're asking him questions, and I thought, let him focus.
While he was walking.
While he's walking.
I didn't even know that happened.
He said specifically, too, that there was one part in the beginning of the walk that was terrifying for him, you know, right when he was walking over the brink of the falls, and he said to them in pre-production meetings, rather, that this was something that he was going to have to deal with and just to leave him alone. You know, I didn't see whether they did or not, but
they didn't.
Well, there you go. And he wasn't happy about that, to be honest.
He wasn't.
I mean, understandably so.
Right.
And I think too, seeing him walk in real life, going up the incline of the rope was incredible. I mean, that had to take calf muscle strength. It's just not some little walk up a hill.
That first part of the walk that he was really terrified about was the downhill part, and walking downhill for him is uncomfortable. I mean, those shoes, though, are, you know, able to grip the wire, but still the downhill slope, it's a 30-foot downhill slope.
And you know what, that, from watching at home, you missed that. You didn't get the decline and the incline, the steepness of it. It just kind of looked relatively similar.
Really interesting.
And you couldn't see, but we were talking earlier about the people who went. You guys went, you crossed the border and went into Canada.
Right.
We had Matt, former intern at Channel 4, he said he and a buddy went, college kid. They went at 7 o'clock at night, parked a block away from Goat Island, walked right on, and could see it pretty much clear as day.
We went up there Nalina and I went, and one of my friends went. We went right when we got off of work. No problem parking, no problem getting across the border, no problem finding a place to watch.
I mean, kudos to the Niagara Falls USA side, because really everything was so planned precisely and down to the T, really. There was no trouble with parking, there was no traffic, and I was astonished about that because crossing the border, I was expecting massive delays and huge hang-ups, and there was none of that. Absolutely none of it.
Did he say anything to you afterward?
It was kind of interesting. You know, there were media outlets from all over the world who were there, and they had this huge press conference afterward, and at one point he addressed the media specifically and said, "Thank you so much for your support, and thank you so much for your coverage." And he's looking directly at me and he says, "You know, some of you have become household names in my family, and, you know, thank you for your support." And, you know, it just kind of walked away and shook his dad's hand, said congratulations, and that was pretty much it.
Now, he also was in an event at the Outlet Mall, which I went to after the fact. Hundreds of people staked it out in advance, and I was told by one of the workers there that he had to leave. He smiled to everybody, but there were still 100 plus that didn't get his autograph. He was just, everybody loved him.
You know, I think that goes to show you also there are people who are naysayers, but once you see this happen, and, you know, a lot of people said that the media hyped it up, and I don't really think that's the truth, because really this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and this is something that is just so incredible. But to see the sheer amount of people who now support him, who may have been naysayers, I mean, that just, it's incredible. It's incredible.
I think the amazing thing about this, too, is when it's all said and done, leading up to it, there were so many kind of hurdles that had to, you know, they had to get through. He did it so professionally, so much more quickly, I think, than was anticipated.
Exactly.
There wasn't really a moment when you were watching as an audience member saying, "Oh, he's looking a little shaky there," or anything like that. And you couldn't have asked for a better outcome.
The really interesting part about that is that the wire was moving along in the wind.
Oh, right.
So those pendulums, you know, they did their job to almost stabilize the wire, but he got off the wire and his wife was like, "Oh my gosh, that wire was moving, like it was really swaying in the wind."
You couldn't see that either at home.
And he didn't know it either, which was fascinating because it felt like he was stable.
And they also had to add another weight, didn't they, because of at the last minute?
Well, they actually took one off.
Oh.
They took one off right at the very end of the wire. They might have added it to the other side, but I don't know offhand, but they did take one off.
All right, we've got very little time, but the tether, I actually thought he was going to pull it off. Take it off.
I thought so too, and you know what? Looking at it, it looked like it was agonizing, and it looked painful for him to actually be wearing it and to watch it grind across the wire.
Right.
It just looked awful. It looked awful.
And what if it stalled on him?
Right.
And yanked him back? What is he going to do next? I've heard a lot. Grand Canyon, Dubai.
Well, he's looking to go to Australia. He does already have the permits to walk the Grand Canyon. He said in the next 3 to 5 years he'll walk the Grand Canyon. Australia, Dubai, maybe sometime in the near future. But he's not going to stop. He's a wire walker. This is what he does. And he said that if he could find a better place to do it, he will. It's fascinating. It's so cool.
Any crazy little tidbit you can think of off the top of your head we didn't get to?
Oh gosh, really, I think it was just incredible to see. I mean, the tether, it's in and of itself. His family, his wife, I saw when she got to the Canadian side. They said a prayer on the American side. She bolted across, and she was determined to get out of the sight of the media. She made a beeline for the ABC tent because she just didn't want to be spoken to. She was nervous.
I blame her.
Yeah, she was very nervous.
Because she's a high wire walker herself, so she knew exactly what he was up against. Well, I'm just going to continue running in my heels, and that will be my excitement. Ed, you did a fantastic job from start to finish, getting to know them and getting us all, breaking, you know, everything.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Drench Files. All right, with that,